Looking at the link between where you are and what the industry is, it always feels really intimidating. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. If you know why you want to tell stories and what the stories you are that you want to tell, you can make it happen, I think. My name is Vinay Patel. I'm a scriptwriter and I come from southeast London. At the time that I was growing up, Bexley Borough was the home borough of the BNP. And it was interesting, like growing up in that area was fascinating because I wasn't really aware of racial tensions in particular, but my family definitely were. So Stephen Laurence was murdered basically up the road from us in Erith. And I remember my family sending me to kickboxing lessons. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I get to like kick adults in the face, and that was really fun. But I only realised later that's because they were terrified I was going to get stabbed. First time I heard the word "packy" was my friend and I. We were walking home when I was 8 years old, and this guy came rolled out the pub, and he had skinheads, Union Jack patch on his jacket. And he turned to my friend and said, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't hang around with a packy, mate." And I sort of turned to my friend and he turned to me and we were like, what's a packy? It was sort of going out into town and getting your first punches, getting your first headbutts and stuff, which was really frustrating. But also I don't know, there was something really useful about that, like having your eyes open and going, this is what this country is actually like. You can't be, it doesn't let you be complacent. It asks you what you want to do to change that and to create the world that you want to live in. And so it was frustrating and physically painful at some points, but also it gave me a real spirit and understanding of why I wanted to do what I want to do. And I remember very specifically when I said I wanted to do English at uni, there was this family friend. He was a professor of biochemistry at a university in Florida, and he came over. And I think he was visiting my grandparents. He sat down with me at the kitchen table. I was like, look, you can do all this stuff on the side. I write poems on the side. They get published in these things here. But I'm a biochemist and you could do both of these things. I was like, that's nice, but that's not what, one, I don't want to be a biochemist. And two, I don't want it to be the side project. I want it to be the drive of my life. My breakthrough piece, I guess, was a play called True Brits, which was juxtaposed sort of paranoia around 7/7 London and euphoria around Olympic London. And that's something I felt myself in that I was 19 when 7/7 happened, and I was uni student, long hair and beard, and I went from looking what I thought was like Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters one day to looking like a terrorist in the space of a day. And it was such a weird head shift for me. And that play came from a whole place of, this is how I think we should approach that story. It should be contrasting these two things, but it should have ultimately an interrogated hope to it. I think these are the important things to put into the world. And when you see those things happen, it's the most addictive thing in the world when you see it come off. When you're like, yes, you can use culture as a way of shaping the world for the better, and that's a massive responsibility, but also a massive joy as well. So with Murdered by My Father, the story of my involvement in that was actually slightly torturous. So it's actually 2 years to the month where I first got the email about it, and it came through my agent, and she was like, oh, we've got this thing from the BBC, they're looking for an experienced TV writer. I was like, well, I'm not an experienced TV writer. I was like, what is it? And it's like, oh, it's this thing about honor killings. I was like, oh, great, comes to the Asian writer about the honor killing thing. I was like, no, thank you, I don't want to do that. In fact, I rang my grandparents and said, I'm a proper writer now because I've turned down a project. That's what good writers do, they turn down projects. And then my agent was like, go talk to the nice producers of the BBC who want to hire you for a job potentially, rather than sacking it off. I think it's the working with the charities in that project which really made me eventually, ultimately be at peace with it, because this is something they really wanted to exist, because they feel like people don't understand it. Also feel like, in particular, the girls affected don't come forward because they feel like they won't be understood. The very first people to retweet BBC Three's shout out about Murder by My Father was Tommy Robinson of the EDL, and you're like, there is no way I'm going to let this story be jumped on by those people. And that requires you to be out there to engage with criticism, to engage with correcting misconceptions. As someone who's researched it, who knows everything about it, don't let that be the thing. Make it a tool for young women in particular to use to stop terrible things happening to them, rather than stick to beaten already aligned community with. And that is a massive responsibility as part of the program, but it's absolutely part of what you have to do. It went from the project I never wanted to do to ultimately the most creatively satisfying project I've ever done, because I got to be creative, but also I got to do the social work with it. That is the thing that really compels me with everything that I do. And like the most amazing moment of my career has been like hearing from those charities that they had like massive upticks in calls after that went out. It's like, that's what good drama can do. You can literally change people's lives. And that's really been the driver for me since then. You have those moments you go, I just don't think I'm good enough, or I don't think I can tell this, or I don't think I'm doing anything interesting. But the thing that really always drove me on was, so my mum died when I was quite young. I was 2 and she was 29. And she was nascently arty. She was like, really liked English. She really liked poetry. She had like a favorite poem. I don't think anyone else in my family has a favorite poem. And my grandfather on my mother's side would talk quite movingly about that, and how, you know, he is he likes to think of himself as quite a well-read man, and I'd like to think he probably would have gone into the arts if he had the capacity to do it. And I was like, God, like, the things they did to get here are so much harder than what I've had to do. If I can't keep myself going, then I'm letting them down massively. I'm letting down, you know, when it was just my granddad told me, oh, your mum would have loved to have seen that this is what you were doing. It's like, I can't give up on that, you know, not yet. Like, and I would tell my younger self to be bolder earlier, and I know that's a tricky thing to do if you're not naturally like that, because you only really learn to get bold through experience. Like, the most emboldening thing that ever happened to me was getting punched in the face and going, actually, that didn't hurt that much. The world is kind of fine. Like, how much worse can it be? But moreover, I think what I'd tell my younger self, and I did tell myself this when I left university, but I would say, if there's something you want to pursue, it's worth throwing away 10 years of your life towards it in your 20s in particular. Like, go and make all those mistakes. And it feels really terrifying because everyone is following a particular path. But all those people who I admired, you know, the ones who are settling down, getting jobs and stuff, I think a lot of them are really dissatisfied with their lives now, frankly speaking, because they didn't take risk. And it is the risk that makes you find satisfaction eventually, I think, whether that's your grandparents moving, you know, 3 continents before they're 30 so that their kids can become accountants, or if it's going, actually, this is what I want to do with my life, and if I don't give it a go, I'll never forgive myself. One day I do want to, it's something you talk about in theatre a lot, about state of the nation dramas, and it's usually like a family thing, or, you know, an office drama. And I was like, I want to write a massive family drama where it's all brown people, and people consider that as a state of the nation drama. People go, that's not just a thing about Asian people. It's like, that is what this country is about right now, and people see it through that lens. Because we talk a lot about diversity and representation. People say it's about young kids of colour or any other minority background seeing themselves exist in the world, and that is important. But you know what's more important is for people who aren't of those backgrounds seeing those characters and going, oh, that's me. Because I grew up going, oh, I want to be Indiana Jones, you know, I want to be that guy. And I want some white kid to grow up and go, oh, I want to be that Asian character, that thing. That's the person I definitely want to be. And I think that's the most powerful way of making empathy useful through drama. When you live at a time where you look at the news and you think, okay, the news doesn't give me hope, politicians don't give me hope. It's got to be the artist to provide that for people. To have been in the situation to get into the arts at the point I did felt like a massive luxury, and it sort of kind of is, and especially the way this country is shifting, and especially arts provisions for people who don't have a lot of money. I think then there is more onus on you as someone, if you're doing relatively well, to put that ladder back down as soon as possible, and for that to be a core part of everything you do. And it gets like, sometimes like, oh God, I have no time for this. It's like, I want those people to take on those stories when I'm not doing it anymore. Like, and they will only exist if you encourage them and you help them and you be there for them when they need it.